For more than 100 red years, the Panama Canal has been at the heart of international trade, providing one of the only practical ways to move cargo between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Now, however, a new competitor is emerging. Mexico is preparing to launch an ambitious undertaking called the Interoceanic Corridor of the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, a name that is certainly a mouthful, but also a project that could reshape the future of maritime transport. So, what exactly is this corridor, and in what ways might it transform the way ships move across the globe? Join us as we explore Mexico's $4.5 billion response to the Panama Canal. Before diving into Mexico's new plan, it's important to revisit the history of the Panama Canal. Along with the Suez Canal, it is one of the most renowned man-made waterways on Earth. The canal slices through the Isthmus of Panama, a narrow strip of land linking North and South America with the Atlantic on one side and the Pacific on the other. Isthmus is not a word people often encounter. So, let's clarify. An isthmus is a land bridge that connects two larger land masses. In this case, the Isthmus of Panama spans just 65 kilometers in width, which happens to be the exact length of the Panama Canal. Compared to other famous canals, this is short. The Suez Canal is nearly 3 times longer, and China's Grand Canal stretches over 20 times its length. But size isn't everything. The Panama Canal's significance far outweighs its modest scale. Before the canal opened in 1914, shipping goods between the Atlantic and Pacific was a logistical nightmare. For example, vessels traveling from Europe to California had to sail all the way south, pass through Chile, navigate the treacherous Strait of Mellen, and then journey north again. A fast ship might complete the voyage in weeks, but most took several months. Worse, the Strait of Mellen was notorious for fierce storms and dangerous currents. The alternative route, the Northwest Passage through the Arctic, was usually blocked by ice, rendering it useless. By the early 20th century, the United States decided to solve this problem. In 1902, the U.S. developed plans for a shipping canal across Central America. This waterway promised not only to cut journey times dramatically, slashing 12,000 kilometers off transoceanic voyages, but also to make the trip far less risky. A ship could traverse the canal in under a day, saving weeks of sailing. In practice, building the canal was far from simple. Workers had to excavate more than 200 million cubic meters of soil and rock using dynamite drills and steam shovels. To put this into perspective, the rubble would have created a mountain nearly 80 times the volume of the pyramids of Giza and nearly twice the height of the Empire State Building. Laborers also endured brutal working conditions, often toiling in temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius. Nearly 6,000 lives were lost during construction, victims of heat stroke, landslides, and tropical diseases. The canal's history is unfortunately one written in blood and hardship. Engineers also faced enormous technical obstacles. The land's elevation varied by nearly 30 m between the highest and lowest points. To manage this, designers created a system of locks and gates that allowed ships to be raised and lowered as they crossed the isthmus. By the time it was finished, the project had cost the U.S. about $375 million, roughly $12 billion in today's money. After more than a decade of construction, the Panama Canal officially opened in August 1914, with the steamship SS Ankin becoming the first vessel to pass through. It was a defining moment in history, proving humanity's ability to reshape geography for the sake of progress. From that day onward, the Panama Canal became indispensable. In its first year, over 1,000 ships passed through, and traffic has only increased since. Today, more than 10,000 ships use the canal annually, collectively carrying around 500 million tons of goods. The toll is steep. Larger ships may pay as much as $500,000 for passage, but it's worth it. The time saved often equates to weeks of sailing, making the cost a fair trade-off. For over a century, the canal has stood as the unrivaled champion of maritime trade, but its dominance is no longer guaranteed. As of 2024, competition is on the horizon, most notably from Mexico's bold new project. The Interoceanic Corridor of the Isthmus of Tehuantepec may sound new, but its origins date back to the 19th century. In 1884, José de la Cruz Prierio Díaz Mori, better known as Porfirio Diaz, became president of Mexico. A native of Oaxaca, He envisioned a railway stretching from his home state to Veracruz, connecting the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. By 1907, his dream materialized in the form of the Tren Intero Oceanico, a railway that began moving hundreds of thousands of tons of goods across Mexico. For a short time, the line boosted Mexico's role in global trade. However, this success was cut short in 1914 when the newly opened Panama Canal drew shipping companies away. Even though the railway was closer to the United States and faster than the Panama route, most companies favored the American Canal. Many of the largest shipping firms were U.S.-based and naturally supported their own nation's project. On top of that, the outbreak of the Mexican Revolution deterred foreign trade through Mexico. Soon, the railway became too costly to maintain and fell into disrepair. For more than a century, it remained neglected until President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, AMLO, revived the vision. In 2018, López Obrador announced his intention to redevelop the old railway into a modern interoceanic corridor, investing $4.5 billion into the project. The plan included 3 main rail lines, Line Z, Line FA, and Line K, stretching more than 1,000 kilometers. By 2020, crews began clearing vegetation, removing old tracks, and laying new ones. Beyond the railway itself, the government planned to construct industrial parks along the route, turning the corridor into a full-scale trade hub. AMLO even ordered the Mexican army in 2023 to seize part of the line from a private company, later offering compensation but ensuring full state control of the corridor. The project, however, has not been without controversy. Indigenous groups in Oaxaca raised concerns about environmental destruction, deforestation, and the displacement of families. Some protests even escalated into violent clashes with reports of machete attacks on construction crews. Critics argue that the social and ecological costs may outweigh the benefits. Yet, supporters emphasize its economic potential. Experts predict it could create 500,000 jobs and attract $50 billion in foreign investment, transforming Mexico's economy and giving it a larger role in global commerce. First milestones. In August 2023, Line Z was completed, and the following month, López Obrador himself took a passenger train across the route in under 9 hours, faster than traveling via the Panama Canal. By December, passenger services officially opened to the public, linking the Atlantic and Pacific coasts. The remaining lines are expected to be finished by the end of 2024 to fully compete with the Panama Canal. However, Mexico must also upgrade its ports. Plans are underway to expand facilities at Salina Cruz, including the construction of a massive breakwater made from hundreds of thousands of rocks to shield ships from storms. Other great canals of the world. Since we've explored both the Panama Canal and Mexico's interoceanic corridor, let's look at some other canals that have shaped global trade. The Suez Canal, Egypt, opened in 1869. It provides a direct passage between the Mediterranean and Red Seas, reducing Europe-Asia voyages by nearly 9,000 kilometers. It remains one of the busiest waterways in the world, with over 20,600 vessels passing in 2021. Nationalized in 1956, it continues to play a crucial role in both commerce and military strategy. The Grand Canal, China, dating back to the 5th century BC and expanded under the Sui dynasty in 609 AD. This remains the longest man-made waterway on Earth, stretching 1,794 kilometers. It linked China's north and south, boosting trade and unifying the empire. Today, parts of it are still used for heavy cargo transport. The Corinth Canal, Greece, completed in 1893. It connects the Gulf of Corinth to the Aegean Sea through a narrow 21 channel. Its small size means it is rarely used today, as modern ships are too large to pass through. The Kiel Canal, Germany, known locally as the Nord's Canal. This waterway links the North Sea to the Baltic. Opened in 1895, it remains Europe's busiest canal, handling about 250 ships daily. The White Sea-Baltic Canal, Russia, built in under 2 years with forced labor from the Gallic. This 227 kilometers canal opened in 1933 and connects the White Sea with the Baltic. Today, it also serves as a historical site commemorating those who died during its construction. Human civilization has always been defined by water. Rivers, seas, and oceans not only shaped settlement patterns, but also determined the flow of commerce, the spread of culture, and the outcome of wars. Yet, natural waterways often left gaps. To connect seas, shorten voyages, and overcome geographical barriers, humans turned to one of their greatest engineering solutions: canals. Beyond the Panama Canal and Mexico's interoceanic corridor, canals across the globe have transformed global trade routes, national economies, and even world politics. Let's take a deeper journey into some of the most iconic canals of history and the modern world. Opened in 1869, the Suez Canal remains one of the most